I'm not convinced it ain't no acting or accident what the track emits. You strapped with gas that you ain't even practiced with. The fact is, you couldn't hit the...
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about NXT 2.0 from December the 21st, 2021. A jam-packed 2-hour show, and it really gripped from the beginning and carried you through the rest of the show. There was, of course, some criticisms, but we'll get to those as we approach them. So let's start the show. Tommaso Ciampa, Braun Breaker, they're standing in the middle of the ring. Tommaso Ciampa reminds Braun Breaker of his failure at Halloween Havoc and how he's not ready for this. Now, all the other guys, from Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano to Finn Balor, they had 10 years of experience before they even got to WWE. And he's had 10 to 20 matches. He's not ready to be champion of his NXT. Just doesn't have the experience. And then out of nowhere, he just smacked Braun Breaker like he was a small child. He smacked him. And then he continued his promo. He smacked him and continued his promo. After, Braun let it sit in for a little bit, and he lifted him up, gorilla press style, over his head. Then instead of spiking Ciampa in the ground, he put him back down, and Ciampa, kind of sold it, went down to one knee like he was worried. Braun told him that the blood was in the water and that the sharks are going to eat him alive. They set up the match, Tommaso Ciampa versus Braun Breaker 2 at New Year's Evil. This was very good. This was very good. Tommaso Ciampa comes out there and really sets the stage. Blew through some cliches, too, by just letting Tommaso Ciampa call out Braun Breaker rather than waiting for Braun Breaker to interrupt. And, they didn't let Braun talk. They let Tommaso Ciampa talk at him. They're keeping Braun's words, they're keeping his promos short. He's not doing a lot of talking. He's going to let Ciampa do the talking. Ciampa's going to talk him in the building, Let Ciampa put him over, let Ciampa cut him down. Okay, cool. This was, I think, a really good opening. I think that this match is going to rule. Of course, the show is in 2 weeks. Question, does Braun Breaker win the title? And I think that is pretty much a given that he wins the title. Question is, what do you do with Tommaso Ciampa if he isn't the champion? And where do you go next with Braun Breaker if he wins the belt? It's a very interesting situation because he'd be the most inexperienced guy to ever be NXT champion. At least, the first one was Seth Rollins, right? And he was, Tyler Black from Ring of Honor. And the second was probably, I think the second was Big E, right? He was the second. So I think he would be another Big E in terms of Big E didn't have a lot of experience when he won the title. So maybe, I think he has less experience than Big E did, to be quite honest. But big fan of Braun Breaker, man. Big fan of Tommaso Ciampa, too. They're doing a really great job of making this match feel big and look big. Grayson Waller. Boy, oh boy, Grayson Waller, man. He is really heating up. He's really heating up. We started the night with Grayson Waller. They showed a video of, apparently he posted this on Twitter about how much he loved AJ Styles as a kid. But just like that other guy he beat up, he's hanging on for too long. And he had the same haircut for 5 years. And it says has the same haircut as his mom. Then called himself the Phenomenal. Later in the show, Grayson Waller goes into the women's locker room. I don't know what he was doing, or he was backstage or whatever. He got Indy Hartwell, found out her match had been canceled, but they didn't know the reason why. Then Grayson Waller walks up and Indy Hartwell is really mad at him. Grayson Waller says, look, we're all Australian. We should all be friends. Indy called him a douche. And because she was very mad about what he did to Johnny. But he really didn't care. Didn't care at all. Didn't care not one bit. They're continuing the Grayson Waller goes around and gets rebuked by various people backstage. And then, of course, the big segment comes where Grayson Waller smashes Dexter Lumis in the back with a chair after Dexter Lumis defeats Trick Williams. Now, Trick Williams, okay, for the record, is hilarious. Earlier in the promo, uh, Carmelo Hayes is trying to tell everybody that Trick Williams is fearless, that he saw him take down dudes twice his size out in the hood. And Trick Williams says his name is Tricky B. Williams. And the B says, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. Since he tried to stab him with his thumb, he gonna leave him. He gonna put that thumb up his ass. Oh, he's talking about a charismatic dude. Trick Williams is tremendous. I love this pairing between Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. They're excellent. They're fantastic. I don't know whose brainchild this was, but this was fantastic. Trick Williams has so much charisma, so much personality, so much character. And him just being on the screen is funny to me. Because he's done the work. I think he's kind of destroyed the aura of Trick Williams, but I would rather prefer this than him being some Mr. Hughes, like not saying anything, standing there, tough guy. Him being like a homeboy who's kind of a tag along is great. Dexter Lumis's face appears on the screen. Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes get kind of spooked. They leave. They go out there to have the match. Trick Williams is using Carmelo Hayes' theme song, and he was already in the ring, of course. Dexter Lumis is already in the ring. They have the match. Trick Williams didn't do bad. He bumped very well in this match. His stuff looked good. The crowd is chanting "whoop that trick," which I think I'm guessing that's a chant against Trick Williams because you want Trick Williams to get whooped. Roderick Strong interfered and beat up on Carmelo Hayes. He got into a bit of a brawl in the middle of the match. Then Trick Williams tried to hit Dexter Lumis with his shoe. Ends up getting caught in the silence and choked unconscious. Then Grayson Waller attacked Dexter Lumis with a chair after the match. So after Grayson Waller hit Dexter Lumis with a chair, we get the introduction of AJ Styles. So let's stop for a moment because that's a lot of. This is what I like about NXT. How they're interweaving everything. Like it feels like one cohesive show. So Trick Williams did good. He had a good match with Dexter Lumis. Dexter Lumis, they're not putting any breathing room between his last feud and his next one. His next feud is with Grayson Waller. They built that up by the Grayson Waller Indy Hartwell thing, and that is also connected to the Grayson Waller Johnny Gargano thing. So it's all feeling like a natural build. Like they're naturally just moving it along. All these characters are interacting with one another. That's what I've been talking about when it comes to storytelling. These characters don't exist in a bubble. They all remember what took place before. They all have relationships with other characters, and they are responding to to something that takes place. Even if it means one guy has 4 different enemies. That's fine. Because one guy who has 4 different enemies, if he pissed 4 different people off, then it would make sense. Okay, so Grayson Waller has attacked Dexter Lumis because Indy Hartwell called him a douchebag earlier. And she called him a douchebag because he attacked Johnny Gargano. So he's just continuously messing with her. So now AJ Styles is on the screen because he heard Grayson Waller was talking that yin-yang. Grayson Waller, we go to commercial, we come back, Grayson Waller's in the ring. He's cutting his promo about how he hates Hall of Fame inductions. People thanking their mom, their dad, their stupid WWE universe. He says, when I get inducted into the Hall of Fame, I'm going to tell you you're welcome. Yeah, right. AJ Styles makes the big introduction. He comes in. He gets a massive ovation. I'm pretty sure they didn't have to pipe in anything when it comes to AJ Styles being there. AJ told Grayson Waller to shut the hell up and that he was the biggest jackass in NXT, saw him trash talking. Grayson Waller says, your meal ticket left you. You need a new tag team partner, but I'm a bit of a singles guy. Not all that interested in being your partner, pal. So AJ Styles then called out Grayson Waller for the gloves and the elbow pad, trying to be like him. Says that he's not sure that Grayson Waller has it. Gave Brian his props, gave Carmelo Hayes his props, Tony D'Angelo. He could see them being stars, but not sure about Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller would rather look good and lose than look ugly and win. And that, oh yeah. Remember, you don't care about wins and losses. Kind of threw that stuff back into Grayson Waller's face. Remember when he said he didn't care about wins and losses? And everybody on the internet was pissy about that. But it seems AJ Styles actually does pay attention. And whoever was the writer of these segments actually is paying attention. Because that is a very important character thing. That Grayson Waller does not really care if he loses. He cares about the attention. So, in any event, Grayson Waller says that he could end AJ Styles right now because now Omos is not there to protect him. AJ Styles told him to do it. Go for it. You had a good 3 weeks. Try being phenomenal for 20 plus years. They have a little bit of a standoff, and then Grayson Waller bows out. He was like, yeah, I'll let Omos handle you first. So, we planted the seed just in case they wanted to water it one day of the Grayson Waller AJ Styles match feud segment or whatever. I'm thinking Grayson Waller may appear on Raw. That could be fun. Where are we going with this? I mean, I'm guessing the best option is a match between AJ Styles and Grayson Waller. That would be amazing. That would be tremendous. In NXT, I saw people critiquing, of course, that, they had to bring in Riddle and AJ Styles. It's like, well, that's what the NXT does. NXT has always, they've occasionally brought in this guy from the main roster to do some stuff with the NXT kids. This has been an NXT staple since its beginning. They've always sent back a guy from the main roster to do something with the kids down there. So this is no different. This thing and the Riddle thing is no real difference. But if it made me truly say though that I wish that they had kept, and not some of the also rans like Adam Cole or Kyle O'Reilly or Johnny Gargano, but maybe they should have kept some of the other guys that have independent credibility, let's say, so that guys like AJ Styles and Riddle wouldn't have to work double time. But what it is it's not really that they're there to teach. It's that also they're there to bring eyeballs to the brand. So it's a good idea to bring Riddle. It's a good idea to bring AJ Styles because they bring new eyeballs to the brand. People who watch Raw can come over and watch NXT, especially if they're going to intermingle those storylines in some way, which they seem to be interested in doing by Omos being referenced on NXT and Randy Orton being referenced on NXT. So it's a great rub for Grayson Waller. He got to have a promo duel with AJ Styles. If it doesn't lead to a match, then he still got to have a promo duel with AJ Styles and stand in the ring toe to toe and get some heat. That's good. I think a match between the two of them probably would not end well for Grayson Waller and it'd probably break his heat. No need to do that. But they did set up a match between Grayson Waller and Dexter Lumis. I expect Grayson Waller to win that match. I expect Grayson Waller to win most of these matches until which point he either wrestles Brian Breaker for the title, in which case it's okay to beat him, or until he actually wins the belt. And then he'll eventually have to lose it. I think that you have something very special with this guy. There's no need to bump him all over the place, beat him up, have him get, thrown and, crash through tables and everything. There's no need to do any of that yet. Let this simmer for as long as possible, especially if Johnny's not coming back. I know a lot of people are like, Johnny's gone. He's gone for sure. I don't know. I know he launched his pro wrestling tees store. That's all fun and games, whatever. Who knows? I don't know the inside baseball of whether he's going to come back or whether he's going to AEW. I don't know. I can say this. If there is a chance, an off chance, that Johnny Gargano is going to return, then you want to have Grayson Waller's heat as high as possible so that Gargano can face him when he's hot. If Gargano's not coming back, then you need to find somebody else, preferably a very strong babyface, who can handle the Grayson Waller thing. And it needs to be somebody on the roster. It can't be some ringer like AJ Styles who comes in to beat this guy and, even if he can elevate him in beating him, it still wouldn't, you don't want to hang a pin on Grayson Waller. You just don't want to do it. He needs to be handled with kid gloves from this point forward. So Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai, they're having a thing. They're having a street fight. And it starts backstage. And I liked this, they started it backstage. Raquel Gonzalez picks up this gigantic steel beam. I don't know if y'all guys remember that episode of SmackDown where Brock Lesnar was like curling that thing. It was like this gigantic beam that goes to the set where sometimes they climb it. Like you'll see, there was a chick who used to, Katie Catanzaro, she always climbs that thing in NXT. It's a gigantic beam. It's heavy as hell. It looks like it. But Raquel Gonzalez kind of rushed Dakota Kai with it. Brock curled that thing. It looked like it was insane. In any event, they have the match. For the first 10 minutes, there was almost no pin attempts. It wasn't a long match, but there were almost no pin attempts, especially when Dakota Kai was on offense. They did the usual chairs, tables, stuff like that. The powerbomb on the ring steps by Raquel was sort of the beginning of the end. Raquel Gonzalez then kind of grabbed Dakota Kai by her throat and said, "I trusted you," threw her in the ring, Chingoa bomb on the trash can, pinned her. Dakota Kai, ooh boy, her second run in NXT ain't looking good. It ain't looking good. She just lost that feud without winning a single match in it. But hey, they made Raquel Gonzalez whole. She probably still shouldn't be there. This NXT still has some holdovers that probably should have moved on by now. I think Raquel Gonzalez is one of them. But she's still there, and while she's there, her winning this feud against Dakota Kai is not that big of a deal. So it is what it is. Dakota Kai can take a loss. She's kind of a rubber band. You can beat her and she'll come right back. So then they go to commercial. They come back. Raquel Gonzalez is in the ring calling out Mandy Rose. What happens is, of course, she gets Cora Jade. And Cora Jade and Raquel Gonzalez go back and forth. Where, Raquel wants a rematch from Halloween Havoc, while Cora Jade feels like she's owed a title shot because she won War Games. And Toxic Attraction attacked her and tried to end her career, so she wants revenge. Raquel Gonzalez reminded her that, hey, they were friends for a moment in time when it comes to War Games, but when it comes to this title, it's everybody for themselves, man. And I was like, oh boy, we're about to have this match, and that's not going to look good to have Cora Jade beat Raquel Gonzalez, because that would make the most sense. So then Mandy Rose appears on the screen. She's about to pull in a bikini, and the camera is making sure that we see everything. You know what I mean? So Mandy's at the pool. She's talking about how envious they are of her and what she's doing for the brand. Offered them a triple threat match and said that not only are they going to get a triple threat match, but they're also going to get their ass beat. And this is when they were attacked by JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. I think they hit them with chairs or kendo sticks or something like that. And they throw Raquel through a table. I know everybody was paying attention to how hard Gigi Dolan hit Cora Jade with that object. I think it was a crutch. Did she hit her harder than you would think? It sounded like she hit her pretty hard with it, but it probably wasn't too special. They set up the tag team match next week, of course. Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, the women's tag team champions, versus Raquel Gonzalez and Cora Jade. This is going to be fun. I like that. I don't like triple threat matches. I notoriously hate triple threat matches, but I will accept it in this situation because Raquel Gonzalez doesn't need to take another loss. And Cora Jade needs to be made whole from being attacked. So as in this situation, Mandy is outnumbered. And why would the heel pick the triple threat match as well? Because she knows she's got her two girls with her. So she's not fighting this match alone. And a triple threat match is no disqualification. So you have this situation where the heel proposes a triple threat match. Only because she gets to handle two birds with one stone, which means that Toxic Attraction is going to jump both of them. So that's fine. And I was kind of brewing over that for a second. I was like, why would the heel propose a triple threat match and not maybe the authority figure? Which you've noticed there has been no authority figure on NXT 2.0 in a long time. Where the hell is William Regal? All right. He hasn't been there for a long time. Him and Samoa Joe disappeared around the same time. Interesting. They don't want any old people on this show at all. They must have like an age limit. It must be like MTV, where if you hit a certain age, you can't even be on screen when it comes to NXT. Still, it was a good idea. It makes sense in the long-term storytelling of the whole ordeal. So now we got Joe Gacy. So Joe Gacy apologizes on behalf of Harlan, who says he's too shaken to speak, and that Brian Kendrick mistakenly triggered Harlan by using offensive language, calling him a freak, and then putting his hands on him. It took Harlan back to a time when he was not accepted and not loved for who he was, unlike now, because Joe Gacy loves Harlan for who he is. It says that at the end of the day, Brian Kendrick has no one to blame but himself. Later, Brian Kendrick says that, oh, you think you want an apology, huh? He was in a neck brace. He said, you want an apology? All right. I left my coaching gig. I signed a waiver. And if you want my apology, you have to get it from me in the ring. And I was like, all right. Okay. Brian Kendrick getting back in the ring. He very quietly retired. Now he's back again. I think this is the second time he's kind of very quietly retired and then came back. If I remember correctly, Brian Kendrick and Daniel Bryan are around the same age. I think they were training partners and trained together. So he's not like the oldest guy on the planet. He kind of they made him look older than he really was with the long beard and the long stringy hair and that kind of stuff. He could go back to looking like Spanky. Well, he can never look like Spanky again, to be quite honest. But he's not that old. He's old enough. And I know he's a guy who kind of blew his opportunity because he wanted to get high. He was sort of the Riddle of WWE. Much like Riddle couldn't get out of his own way in the UFC, Brian Kendrick couldn't get out of his own way in WWE. This was the guy who they gave really a long run as a tag team champion with not with Brian Kendrick, because he is Brian Kendrick, but with Paul London. And then they broke him off and gave him a singles run where they kind of had something for him, even though he was a little bit small. Remember, he was in that big match with MVP and the rest of those guys. He actually got to be the quote-unquote WWE champion for a short time. It's a meme on the internet that he was a former WWE champion. It's a meme. But I've always liked Brian Kendrick. I liked him when he was in Ring of Honor. I liked him when he was in the Cruiserweight division. His TNA run was pretty good, too. I just a fan of the guy. And I don't know if I want a second run, an NXT run with Brian Kendrick. I'm not sure if I want that, but I'm interested in this single match, this one-off match. So let's focus on this one-off match. Harlan's going to kill him and probably going to put him right back in the coach's chair, which is perfectly fine. But maybe this could be the beginning of something. Who knows? I mean, they got rid of a lot of guys, so but, who knows? So the Grizzly Young Veterans, they're watching videos of the Creed brothers doing stuff on Instagram. And James Drake is very impressed. Zach Gibson, of course, is not. He says that we're not going to beat them by being more physical. We're going to beat them by being smarter. We're going to be smarter than those blokes. That's how they talk, right? Calling people blokes. Bollocks! Anyway, the Creed brothers and the Grizzly Young Veterans go to a no contest. Disqualification? I don't know. Jacket Time came out there with an announce table, a very tiny announce table. I thought it was a box. I thought they had stuff in a box. And of course I was going to do my, what's in the box? What's in the box? But it wasn't a box. It was an announce table. And they were doing Japanese commentary for this match. The Creeds were going to powerbomb the Grizzly Young Veterans onto that table, and Jacket Time stopped them. All hell broke loose. Briggs and Jensen was there too. It's like they're always hanging on, dilly-dallying around. Who the hell cares about those guys? Get those hillbillies out of here. They suck. They suck so bad. It's really sad. Okay, so Pete Dunn cut a promo about, I'm 28 years old, but I got 15 years of experience. Wait a minute. And I was just giving pause as I wrote that down. Like, he's 28. He been wrestling since he was 13. What is he, a Joshi? What is he from Japan? Like they kidnap middle school girls and make them start wrestling in Japan. Is that what happened to this guy? Was he like the Dynamite Kid where they kind of threw him into the snake pit when he was like 12? he came out as Billy Robinson the fourth or some shit? Anyway, I'm the baddest man in NXT. I got 15 years of experience. I'm in the sage age of these geezers. And he says he's a lot hungrier than a lot of the geezers running around. That he's going to make sure that Tony D never forgets that he's the baddest man in NXT. This leads to Tony D'Angelo. Well, Tony D'Angelo actually cut his promo first, but I completely missed it. I missed it in my notes, where he talked about smacking around everybody who stepped up in front of him. He's not scared of anyone, and that he calls himself the baddest man in NXT. But how bad were you when I bashed your head and get to into the cage and ripped out your mouthpiece? How about that? So that leads us to the main event: Tony D'Angelo versus Pete Dunn, in what was a very, very good match. And Tony D'Angelo showed that he can actually go. He can go. Not only does he have the character work and the promos down, but he can actually go. Unfortunately, WWE continues to book markishly, and Pete Dunn won the match. We didn't need that. They need that. Pete Dunn wins with the bitter end. Tony D'Angelo is so much bigger than Pete Dunn. Pete Dunn, before we get to the post-match stuff, Pete Dunn, in the last 2 or 3 months, has defeated Ilya Dragunov while he was the number one contender for the NXT UK title. Defeated Carmelo Hayes while he was an NXT North American champion. And now has beaten Tony D'Angelo. He's the first man to ever beat Tony D'Angelo. And he is nowhere in any title picture. He's just collecting wins very silently for no real purpose. He's just winning. Pete Dunne is a guy we could say should have been moved up to Raw or SmackDown by now, but he's complete and totally humorless. So he works as a straight man for whatever a comedy dude he would be tagged up with. And even though he's in good shape, he's shaped like a penguin. So it's very hard to tell that he would probably not get that big of a push on the main roster. So him still being in NXT for the last 6 years, I think it's been now 6 years he's been in NXT UK. Well, it's fine. It's fine, I guess. I like Pete Dunne. I don't know if I like him as the guy who beat Ilya Dragunov. I don't like that. Him beating Carmelo Hayes, didn't like that, and then I didn't like him beating this guy. The company clearly likes him. Whoever is in the back clearly likes Pete Dunne and wants to keep him in the rotation. I just don't see, if he's not going to be the champion or something, what the hell is the point of him doing all this stuff? Anyway, Tony D'Angelo tried to attack him from behind. That didn't work out. Pete Dunne's face only looks like an oatmeal cream pie. He's not really an oatmeal cream pie. So he beats up Tony D'Angelo outside the ring. Then Tony D'Angelo comes up with a crowbar, which I was like, oh, talk about on brand. A mob guy with a crowbar. He takes down Pete Dunne on the announce table. It was kind of sloppy there for a moment. Then he whacked him across the wrist with the crowbar. He only whacked him once, which is actually very good. You don't want to get cartoonish with it. Sometimes guys get real cartoonish and you whack them like 4 or 5 times with it. 5 or 6 times, or just keep whacking them. It's like eventually, we got to hear something snap. But one good whack, you don't know how much the damage really was done. But it was mafia tactics, and I really like Tony D'Angelo. He's babagoo. He's great. He's excellent, and this was a very on-brand, in-character action to be a sore loser. And anybody who thought Tony D'Angelo was a babyface, what do you think now? Forget about it. He was never the babyface. People just likes him, because he's funny and he's cool. I think he might be like the new Razor Ramon. I think Tony D'Angelo is a character that everybody's kind of going to like, even if you're not supposed to. And he could have a hell of a run with that. If he's the modern day Razor Ramon, like I think he is, he's going to have a hell of a run, because Razor did very, very well for himself. And Tony D'Angelo, the only thing I got is Tony D'Angelo dumped Pete Dunne on the head. Even though it was kind of like on the shoulder a little bit, he did kind of throw him over his head pretty recklessly. But other than that, Tony D'Angelo rules. He's very good. And Pete Dunne earned every bit of that beating. Zoe Stark was up next. She's off crutches. And she's running around backstage feeling good. Well, she's not quite running. She's hobbling. But whatever. There's no need to get pedantic about it. She runs into Legado del Fantasma. I think they're trying to go to Mr. Regal's office. Mr. Regal. He's like Claw now, where you hear more about him. And he kind of sits in a chair with his back to the screen. You're not allowed to see his face because he's too old. Now all of a sudden, Legado del Fantasma's back there, and Elektra Lopez shows up. Io Shirai gives Elektra Lopez the riot act in Japanese, to which even she and the rest of us were flummoxed at whatever it is that Io Shirai was saying. Later, Elektra Lopez says she's going to beat up Io Shirai, because why wouldn't she? Because Io Shirai was bumping them gums at her. Match barely got started before Zion Quinn came out there with mistletoe between his teeth. And he pulls out the mistletoe, gets Elektra Lopez's attention, dangles the mistletoe over her head. They look like they're magnetically attracted to one another. And all of a sudden, things get a little bit steamy. I had to adjust my collar. I was like, wait a minute. And all of a sudden, the Santos Escobar cock blocks him. He's cock blocker. They're trying to make me not like Santos Escobar. He's supposed to guide his cock, not block it. While she distracted, Io Shirai hits a moonsault. 1, 2, 3. She wins. Of course she wins. Makes no sense. It should have been a disqualification. Whatever. And that's kind of the end of that. So instead of dragging this thing out and letting Elektra Lopez look really good in a match against Io Shirai, they threw the match on the same show as the confrontation just mere minutes later and had Elektra Lopez lose. Look, I'm not a fan of the confrontation and then the match on the same show. I'm okay with you have the confrontation and then you say, all right, we'll see about all that jibber jabber you got going on next week. All right, cool. Because the traditional thinking is you have a show set up already. There's no more room for you to jam another match onto this show. Theoretically, right? Theoretically, the whole 2 hours should already be booked. So any spontaneous activity that occurs should probably be paid off the next week. So I'm not really a big fan of, they got into it 10 minutes ago and now they're going to have a match, or they just got into an argument 2 minutes ago, now it's going to lead to a match. I'm not a fan of that. I would prefer you set something and then card subject to change, something switches or whatever. I would prefer that. But I'm not upset about Elektra Lopez losing either. She lost to Io Shirai, which is not a big deal. And also she lost via distraction, which is also not a big deal. Zion Quinn coming out there with the mistletoe was very, very strange. This is the oddest love story I've ever seen, because apparently they're going to end up together. All right, I mean that's really how it's going to end. But it's a very odd love story. You're also going to have Santos Escobar, who is now playing big brother to Elektra Lopez. He's gonna, no, you're not allowed to date him. Never him. Anybody but him. You're a Mexican. He's a Samoan. You're from two different worlds. I don't know, man. It's a weird position for him to be in. Talk about Santos Escobar. He should definitely be at the top of the card doing fun stuff with that NXT title, or wrestling for one of these other belts that they got floating around here, since they got so many. But it seems like they won't have too many for too much longer. So Carmelo Hayes, we finally got back to Carmelo Hayes. He's pretty upset about Roderick Strong attacking him. So Bivens and those guys made the challenge, saying that Carmelo Hayes didn't like that gift they left him. And Diamond Mine is all about respect and money. And they always about the big money matches. They think that the big money match that they got left is title for title, Roderick Strong versus Carmelo Hayes. And I was like, whoa, okay. Of course, Carmelo Hayes accepted it and said he's going to choke on that smoke that he want to give him. And I was like, damn, they going to go ahead and throw this one on free TV? We're not even going to try to save that one for the next takeover, which probably won't be anytime soon. So I guess so. This seems like it's the perfect vehicle to get rid of that cruiserweight title. And I'm thinking that's what it's going to be. Carmelo Hayes is going to retire the cruiserweight belt or run around with both belts. I mean, who knows? I like it either way. This is a heel program because Diamond Mine are not baby faces. It wouldn't make sense for Roderick Strong to be a babyface. It just wouldn't. Because the Creed brothers are heels. Ivy Nile is a heel. Malcolm Bivens is a heel. Why would Roderick Strong be a babyface? Now, he can be the more honorable of the two, being the guy who is all about, competition and fair play, that kind of thing. Sure. Okay. I can buy that. I don't think Roderick Strong, who I think should probably take Tommaso Ciampa's spot if Ciampa's going to be done at the top of the card. They just put Roddy up there, let Bivens talk for him. So I'm fine with them eliminating the Cruiserweight title. The 205 Live is dead. They've got women on the show. They've got, fat people on the show. There's just all kinds of stuff going on with 205 Live. It's not a show for the Cruiserweight title anymore. So the Cruiserweight title really serves no purpose. And it's kind of I wouldn't call it a third wheel championship, because it's always possible that you could make it something else. It's unique in that only smaller guys can win it, and that gives it a special flair. It makes it different, that you have to be a certain size in order to win it. But since NXT doesn't seem to be focusing on those guys anymore, what point is it to continue to have it? And giving it to Carmelo Hayes and giving him that push to be the guy to get rid of it is fine. To retire it, that's fine. I like it. Roderick, you put some thought into Roderick Strong winning the North American title. It's entirely possible. I don't hate that idea. I just don't like it. I don't like it because Roderick Strong just lost to Braun Breaker. And that's also my problem here. It's like, okay, can we take... That's why I think we should have waited until maybe another takeover. Because why not let Roderick Strong defend the Cruiserweight title a couple of more times? Really build up the meaning of it. Because, this match is happening fresh off of Roderick Strong getting beat by Braun Breaker. So it's like he defended the Cruiserweight title against somebody who wasn't a Cruiserweight and won. That's good. Maybe defended a couple of more times in an open weight variety. Maybe even have a couple of open weight matches. And then we have the match with Carmelo Hayes, and Roderick Strong can come in the match a little bit hotter than he is now. Now he's going into this match very cold. And therefore, Carmelo Hayes doesn't really get a lot out of beating him, considering Roderick Strong just lost to Braun Breaker and had not won any matches in between. It's okay to lose to Braun Breaker, but we need to get you back on the winning road, so that when you lose the next match, it doesn't look like you just lost two big matches in a row. You need to have a couple of more wins in that span too. But it doesn't seem like we're going to get that, because they're talking about doing contract signing next week. Whatever. I guess everybody can start saying their goodbyes to the Cruiserweight title. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. So goodbye, Cruiserweight title. We barely knew ye. All right, so MSK and Riddle wasted everybody's time, as they want to do for some reason. MSK is just very bad at everything, and Riddle, he's trying, man. The Shaman bro, he's doing his best. So he starts talking about how the Scooter is like a tag team partner on a journey to the destination, or some crap. I'm like, what is going on? He gives them some RK Bro shirts, which, well, let's be quite honest. You give fans free gear. Why not? Since they're fans, you give them free gear. They trusted the Shaman, as they should. Then they rode around town on scooters until they got hit by a car. They got hit by a car. All three of them. Riddle's flip-flops went flipping through the air, landed down. I'm thinking, okay, is everybody dead? Apparently not. They wake up. They had a shared dream. I've heard of this before. I've heard of this phenomenon of people having shared dreams. But it's an odd thing to have occur while they sitting at the bus stop. they fell asleep, had a shared dream. This is ridiculous. Now, again, I've heard of people having shared dreams, but that doesn't sound normal. And how can we see their dreams? What sense does that make? I don't get this. I don't get this at all. This was a confusing angle. And I get it was probably put together by stoners, which explains it all. Okay? But they wake up and Shaman Bro is still there. He gets off the bus instead because, he's not a multimillionaire. So he gets off the bus, like the local bus, like the number 6 or some shit. He just hops off and they're like, bro, ding, ding, bro, next stop. What is he doing on the bus? Riddle's on the bus, and they're going to go call out Imperium. That was the plan before they got hit by the truck. Then they woke up from their fever double dream, found Riddle was still alive. He hopped off the bus, and now they're going to call out Imperium still because that's they had the dream to do. And I'm just kind of like, I don't get this at all. I'm glad it's over. But Shaman Bro is going to go with them to call out Imperium. He's going to be in their corner. He's going to be on their side as it happens. This leads Imperium to say, look, we ran these guys out of town. We're sick of these kids. Well, they didn't say they're sick of these kids. I added that. I would hope they were sick of these kids. And when Bartel was talking, I was like, am I watching WXW again? Am I making that mistake? Well, it wasn't really a mistake because it's not that bad. And he says they have the shaman, but we have a general. And I was like, oh, baby. Riddle and Walter. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Now, they've been hinting at Walter coming to the United States for a little while now. Apparently, all the things that was holding him back, like VXV, or WXW, as they call it. Well, as we call it in the United States, because W is a W and V is a different letter. Germans, V does not look like a W. They call it VXV. We call it WXW. Apparently, Walter is no longer working for them. I don't think he's also working with Progress anymore. And apparently, he also is getting divorced. So everything that has anything to do with Europe, Walter is kind of starting to leave it behind. He's also getting in great shape. And he's about to come have a world tour in the United States. And, oh, baby. If the first match he's going to do is he's going to beat up on Riddle, I'm all for it. 100%. I'm all for it. Now, they have to do this Walter thing right. If we have Walter in the United States, for starters, that's not... Him in NXT is fine. Okay? You want to do NXT. You want to do Walter and Braun Breaker. You got my money. Okay? You got my cash. Here, take the cash. Because Braun Breaker doesn't need to be champion for the long term or whatever anyway. You can have Walter take it from him. It won't hurt him at all. Nobody will be cringing. Nobody will be upset. Nobody will be mad. Take it. Go ahead. Only problem we got is that I want Walter on the main roster. And the more time he spends in NXT beating the shit out of kids, that's time he's not chopping Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns or somebody that I actually care about. Well, care more about. Let's put it like that. But Walter, he can chop wherever he wants, and I'll be there. That's how I ended up watching bootleg European wrestling on the network. It's because of Walter chopping guys. Hey, I'm all for it, man. So I'm interested. It would make this match very interesting. That you'll have Walter on one side, Riddle on the other. Okay, cool. That adds some spice to this match. I like it. What else we got here? What's the last thing? Von Wagner losing to Idris Inoue. That was embarrassing. It was an upset roll up, surprise finish. Wagner kicked his ass afterwards. Rob Stone was there. Anything Robert Stone gets involved with turns to mush almost immediately. Good Lord. Can we please get rid of Robert Stone? I don't think we can get rid of him fast enough. I think that's it. That's it for NXT. All right, so NXT was a really good show. They pack a lot in. There's a lot of implications and seedlings being planted for future shows, especially New Year's Evil. I got a couple of critiques of the entire show. One, there was a dearth of entrances. I think only Tony D'Angelo and Pete Dunne was the only match that got where both people in it got an entrance. Everybody else was just already in the ring. I'm sorry. You have to give people that couple of minutes of spotlight. I know that maybe you don't need it. I know you want to run your recap packages and you want to try to squeeze in as many short promos as you can. I can respect that. But please give people their entrances. Let us hear the theme song. Get the crowd behind them. Give them that couple of seconds to themselves, man. It's a short walk. Second major critique I have, too many goddamn run-ins. Way too many run-ins. If we look at this card, how many of these matches had run-ins? The first match didn't. The second match was the tag team match. That had a run-in because Brooks and Jensen was out there and Jacket Time was out there. You had Zion Quinn do a run-in on Io Shirai's match. Io Shirai and Elektra Lopez. You had Roderick Strong do a run-in on the Trick Williams versus Dexter Lumis match. So almost too many of these matches had run-ins. It's just too many of them. It's annoying. And they didn't really try to introduce anybody new this week. There was no Tiffany Stratton stuff this week. There was no Boa, interesting enough. So they kind of left some things off the show in order to build new things. There was no Draco Anthony sitting in the coffee shop, lonely as hell, sad as I can be commercial. It wasn't nothing like that. At least I didn't see it. So this is an interesting thing, but they're really kind of pushing hard for New Year's Evil. The card looks solid. It's probably going to be Imperium versus MSK. It's going to be Imperium with Walter versus MSK with Riddle. I'm looking forward to that. The triple threat match, I've already said, I'm not a big fan of triple threat matches, but I like this idea because Toxic Attraction is going to have the numeric advantage. And then No Got just going to beat the hell out of both Raquel Gonzalez and Cora Jade. It's going to be a question of who takes the pin in that match. It's probably going to be on Raquel Gonzalez. Like I said, she's got to be on her way out. Roderick Strong versus Carmelo Hayes. That's going to be a banger. And to me, that's going to be the main event. Because, we should start the show with Tommaso Ciampa and Braun Breaker. The match is so predictable. So might as well start the show. But WWE typically does the right thing, and that's put their main event as the main event. So, and you're going to end with Braun Breaker celebrating, and probably with a new challenger emerging. Speaking of these new challengers, though, because Braun Breaker becoming the champion, and it's going to definitely be a need for new challengers. But first, let's talk about this article where Gargano says that he wants to finish his story with Tommaso Ciampa. And I'm like, it's not over? What on earth are you talking about, brother? Talking about we need to finish that somewhere down the line. I'm like, what? Y'all mean to tell me that the one final beat wasn't the end? What is going on? What kind of ending did you have in mind? Look, man, that I get it that the empty arena match probably wasn't the best way to end this feud, but it's got to be over. Please. This is the reason why people wanted to blow up NXT. This was these guys with these long-winded stories where these same two guys were wrestling each other 1,000 times. And it started really aggravating people. And it was that kind of shit that made people want to get rid of NXT in the first place. That's why I'm glad Gargano's on the outside now. At least for now. I don't know, man. I truly don't believe he's going to go to AEW. I think he's probably just taking a break and he'll probably come back later. That's just me. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care. But that being said, there was PC tryouts recently, and Roxy, the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, went to a PC tryout. Now, she was trained by Booker T, so she's a Booker T student. She's only 20, so she's got a lot of good stuff going her way. She's already been a world champion at a major wrestling promotion. She's only 20 years old. She's connected with Booker T. She's younger than AQA was. I think AQA was like 31 or something like that. Or she was like 24 or something. I still think releasing her was a big mistake. I think it was a huge mistake, personally. But Booker T's, the girls that he trains are usually very good. Promise Braxton is very good too. Why they haven't called her, I don't have any idea. Every time I see her on screen, she's very good. So Booker T really trains the girls well, so they really should be using him more to fill out their women's division. The women's division needs some thickening agents, because I think that's where they did the most damage when it comes to the releases in NXT. Is they release a lot of the women, some of the veteran women, and they basically just dumped the entire division on Io Shirai. Like, oh hey, how about you just take care of everybody? I know it has to be incredibly frustrating, especially when you watch Lash Legend. Oh my goodness. You talk about somebody who is so bad at pro wrestling that it makes you smile. Lash Legend is that bad. Lash Legend is really bad. Now, that being said, there was a tweet that kind of, I didn't really like it. It was like the PC is a bad place to learn if you want to wrestle. And I'm like, wait a minute. Come on. Lash Legend doesn't have the benefit of live shows. This is her second match. The match that everybody's making fun of is her match with Saray, which I'm guessing is going to be on 205 Live. I don't know if it's already aired or not. I don't know. I watched like one episode of 205 Live within the last year, and it was just background noise. So I don't think I've seen it. I didn't see her first match, but I didn't hear anything about her first match. The second match is the one that I kept seeing the clips of. She's awful, but it's only her second match. Everybody else who basically started in the business not only didn't wrestle on TV as far as having their first few matches, but they also had the benefit of house shows. She can't work house shows because there are none. So she has to wrestle on TV. And so she's going to be out there looking kind of bold. They're doing it on 205 Live where it's not on national television where everybody can see it. It's on 205 Live where only a select number of people can see it. Now, WWE made the fatal mistake of tweeting it out. That Lash Legends versus Saray, because Saray's back in the country now. Yay. Yay for her. But for Christ's sake, Lash Legend was awful. It was awful. And I kept saying to myself, they need help on the women's division. Because Lash Legend, she's cool as far as she want to be a talk show host. I believe in the diversity of talent. She needs to get out of the ring, focus on her character work, maybe become a manager, a commentator, backstage interviewer, or something. Now, I know Lash Legend's a basketball player. She's not much in the way of, contact sports or stuff like that, but she is blowing the spot up. And I think she and B-Fab are really exposing what WWE is doing, as they don't know what they're doing. I mean, look at them. Just look at them. I mean, it really made the PC a laughing stock for a couple of hours, and yeah, people focus on the negatives, and Lash Legend was a real big negative when it comes to, that video that they put out there, because she looked so bad, but when you think about it, Brian Breaker came out of the PC, Tony D'Angelo came out of the PC, Bianca Belair came out of the PC. There's a lot of people who came out of that PC that turned into pretty good, and some people aren't good. It's, you can look at some of the wrestlers that were trained by folks that were very good trainers, and they turned out to not be very good. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. You're not going to bat 1,000, and WWE is always going to be fighting an uphill battle to justify their own training program, because people are going to be like, yeah, they're going to train these guys, and then nobody will want them when they get released. Even though we've seen that that's not true. And then they'll say they're getting basketball players and people with no interest in wrestling to do wrestling. And then it's like, what? That's the business. The business, period, has been getting washed up boxers, washed up football players or whatever, and bringing them into the business. I mean, that's kind of how things have always been. But they're going to be fighting an uphill battle when it comes to that perception all the time. So when they tweet out videos like Lash Legend struggling, she's out there looking like a baby deer. then everybody's going to look at it and be like, what in the fuck is going on in the PC that you got this chick in there damn near dropping Saray on her head? And Saray is like, she's a prodigy. Saray is one of those Joshis, probably got kidnapped at 11 years old and locked in a boot camp and came out like this excellent pro wrestler. And they were like, oh my God, she's 24 with like 22 years of experience. And she's like one of the best in the world. Why in the world she's wrestling Lash Legend and who can barely stand up? And it's like, well, it's hard to argue that point. It's really hard to argue. Because likely Saray is younger than Lash Legend from the looks of things. I'm pretty sure she is, and she's got more experience. But at the same time, we're in a weird position here, and it doesn't do anybody any favors. I think that tweet caused more trouble than WWE was actually looking forward to. And I thought they was going to delete the tweet, but they very proudly kept it up. They're really trying to sell the character of Lash Legend, and I was like, okay, I wouldn't have tweeted this out. I would have deleted that tweet, personally. That's just me, though. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.